guys, this is the spice with spice, rice, and everything nice, and this is pepper jelly. I'm going to talk more about it later, but let me go right to getting this just together. All right, right here is 1 cup. I went ahead and diced it up so I could measure out a cup of green pepper, regular sweet green pepper. These are 2 cups of jalapenos that I have previously frozen. Well, I'll talk about those in a minute. But I'm putting them in my food processor because I want to make sure they're really small pieces. Here we go. Now I'm grinding these up really, really small because nobody wants big old piece of pepper in their pepper jelly. So here we go. Let me check it, guys. Some always gets on the side, so let me push it down. Now the reason I put my vinegar, you could chop these up without the vinegar in it, but they chop up smaller and better with the vinegar in it. So here we go, a little bit more. Make sure you don't touch them. You touch them, you can't get that hot pepper. It won't hurt immediately, but later, whoo, terrible. Then if you take your hands and wipe your face, then you got them in your eyes and everywhere else. Okay, let's transfer over here to our pot. Make sure you have a tall pot, just like when you're making any kind of jelly, because it is going to boil up. It's going to boil up when we put the sugar and everything into it. It's going to boil up a whole lot, so make sure you have one with high sides. All right, so I'll make sure you guys can see what we're doing with. Okay, so what we have in here are our peppers and 1 cup of vinegar. Okay, I'm going to add another cup of vinegar, and I'm going to add 1 box of Sure Gel. All right. Here's my jars I've got sterilizing. I tell you what, I'm going to put them over here. They're already sterilized. And now to here, I'm going to add my peppers, vinegar, and sugar, and pectin. Now we're going to bring this to a boil. I see that my pectin has not completely dissolved in there, so I love a whisk. A whisk and a spatula are my favorite instruments in the kitchen. All right, we're just going to let this come to a boil. Okay, this is boiling. So this is just my peppers, pectin, and vinegar. That's it. So now I've got 6 cups of sugar, and you're supposed to add it all at once. So here we go. All right, let me stir that in. And that's got to come to a boil, and then we'll start timing after it comes to a boil. So let me stir it in. I think I'm going to have to use my whisk again. Yeah, let me get my whisk. We'll get all that sugar incorporated in there, and we'll let it come back to a boil. Okay, so my husband Ricky, he loves to garden. His mother, his mom and dad, and his brother grew up in the edge of Tippah County. He went to school in Pine Grove, and they live almost in Prentiss County, their house where they were, and their land where they grew up. So they had a garden all of their lives, and so Ricky learned to garden from his parents. And everything that they ate were things that they had grown. So this is one thing they didn't grow. They did not grow hot peppers. They grew other kind of peppers, peas, potatoes, all kinds of things. Everything that they ate, they grew in their garden. But Ricky, in recent years, since his parents have passed away, and he has been doing the garden exclusively, he loves to do hot peppers. Now, he's done jalapenos, he's done habaneros. Those are his 2 main ones. Well, then he has done the little cayenne peppers, little skinny ones. He has done reapers. He has done all kinds of hot peppers. He just loves hot peppers. The hotter the better. So, and they make so well in the soil out there. So I'm like, what in the world am I going to do with all these hot peppers? So the first thing I started doing was making this pepper jelly. Now this is something I did not grow up eating, but I know Southern women at tea parties would have cream cheese with pepper jelly and things like that. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can make some pepper jelly. So this one I'm doing today, I've made hundreds of times. I have made jalapeno jelly, I've made habanero. I made some Reaper jelly one time. I'm going to tell you the story about it. So Ricky, all the time, he always says, oh, that's not really hot. I said, oh, come taste this jelly. He said, oh, it's not really hot. You know, and I'm like, I'm gonna teach him something. So this recipe calls for 1 cup of sweet pepper and 2 cups of jalapeno peppers. Well, what I normally do is all jalapenos. I don't ever do any sweet peppers in it, but for purposes of this video, I thought, well, I better do it according to the recipe. But normally I'll do 3 cups of jalapenos or 3 cups of habaneros. Okay. So I thought, well, I am going to get him. So, because he always says, oh, things aren't hot. So I took the Reapers, and I can't remember what the other ones are, the real hot ones. And some of them are red, and some of them are green. And so I thought, well, I'm going to make Reaper jelly. And I can't remember what the other one's called. So I make it. So I make one, I can't remember what the other's called, but one with the Reaper, green Reapers, and one with the red ones that are so hot. So I do this. Okay, and so in a little dish, I put some of the Reaper green, some of the Reaper red. And I put them in at home on the counter after I made it. He was at work. And then I put a little thing of cream cheese beside each one and some crackers. And I told him when they came in, I said, come in and taste these and see which one you think is hotter. You know. So he unsuspecting, he just comes in there and tastes. This is coming to a boil, but not yet, but it's not a rolling boil yet. And so he comes in and tastes, and he starts coughing, his eyes start running, snot starts running out, and I'm like, he can't even speak. So he goes over there to the sink, you know, and finally we get him some milk, he drinks it. He's like, whoo! Anyway, I got him. All right, this has come to a boil. So we're supposed to boil this now for 1 minute. And this is the reason right here, guys, that we've got to let it be in a tall container. Because this is really bubbled up to twice the size. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to let it go for 60 seconds. And then we're going to put it in our jars. So anyway, that was funny. All right, moving on. I have done this with red jalapenos. I made red jalapeno jelly. I've done it with, like I said, the green with the habanero and the jalapeno. I've done blueberry pepper. We have muscadines in our yard. I've done muscadine pepper. Just this week, I had cranberries left over from Christmas, and I'm like, what can I do with these? Decided to make some cranberry pepper jelly, and it turned out great. Now, those are all different recipes from what this one is. But this pepper jelly, I have given to all kinds of people. Every year, it's been a minute, my assistant says, so I'm going to take that off the heat. Every year I give the trustees at Christmas, I give them pepper jelly. Okay, now, my alarm's going off. All right, while that sits for just a minute, I'm going to take my jars. I'm going to go ahead and can my jars. Now the jars have been sitting here in the hot water boiling, and so we're going to take them out of the hot water. Now I've got 2 different sizes here. I've got the little ones and I've got the big ones. The little ones are a half pint. The big ones are a whole pint. Now they come in all shapes and sizes. This is a pint. This one's a pint, but this is a different shape. Okay. This one's a pint. That's a wide mouth jar. That's a different shape. There's another wide mouth jar. There's another half pint jar. A half pint, this one right here, this little one, is about enough for one 8-ounce container of cream cheese. All right, let me move this out of the way so you guys can see better. All right, there we go. All right, so that's dinging probably because I have this on here, but okay. So here's our pepper jelly, and we're ready now to put it into our jars. Sometimes what I do is add a little, let's see what I did, okay, little food coloring. Let me see what color this is. Let me see if that's, yeah, it looks a little bit, to me, it's not as bright as I want it to be. This is totally optional, but I'm gonna add just a couple drops of green food coloring. I don't want it to look fake, but I don't want it to look sick. So I think that's good. All right. Here we go. All right. Here we go. We'll start with this one. And we'll pour and leave a little headspace in these little ones. Of course, these are canning, this is canning equipment here, this red funnel, I guess you would call it, but it's just for canning. You probably have one, your grandmother probably has one. You can buy them at the store. You can buy the jars at the store, any grocery store or discount store. All right, now these are going to be twice as much here, these bigger ones. So they would be enough for maybe 2 things of cream cheese or whatever. All right, I'm going to need a wet paper towel that's squeezed out, that's just damp, because I'm going to have to wipe the top of these jars. Now, I've almost finished with the jars. These are all the jars I had at the house. During the pandemic, guys, when I say that, I mean during that shelter-in-place time, there was no finding canning lids. I mean, you couldn't find them anywhere. So I did a lot of this right here and just giving them to people and without them being canned. Okay, so now here we are with our lids we're going to can. Let's talk about this. This is the same thing that you're going to do with any jar that you are canning. You want to take a wet paper towel then, and you want to wipe around the rims. Now you're wiping around the rims because there cannot be anything on the rims. If there is, it won't seal because it won't, that sealing compound won't melt and seal the tops of those. So we want to make sure all these rims are wiped. So some people say use a little vinegar. I guess that works. I don't do that. I just use a wet paper towel, squeezed out. I'll take water and put it on the paper towel and then just squeeze it out and put it on there. Okay. Now we're going to put our lids on. Okay, now these lids, you don't bring them to a boil in water. In fact, they say now you don't even have to, with these new lids, you don't even have to bring them to a boil. You can just, you don't even have to put them in water. They say you can just, you're not supposed to bring them to a boil, but you don't even have to put them in water now, they say. I don't know. But I do, and this is the way I do it. This is a wide mouth as opposed to the regular mouth, which is what's on these others. All right? So here we go with our lids. You can buy the lids anywhere. All right? This has a magnet on the end. And so we use that to pick up the lids. You don't have to have that. You could just fish them out. Okay, so now we're going to put the rings on. The flat thing is called a lid, and these round things are called rings. You can buy just the lids, which is what I have here, or you can buy the lids and the rings. If you buy jars at the store, they're gonna have lids and rings already on the jar, so that's what you would use. Well, this is a bigger one. This is for the wide mouth. Okay, now I don't have room right now on my stove for my water bath canner, but we're gonna come back in a minute and I'm gonna show you what we do as far as securing these. Now, some people, especially older people, will say, oh, I just turned my jar upside down and it seals itself. Well, that may be for you, but according to the USDA and everything that you read, that's not a true seal. So that's what we're going to do with those. These others will not seal, so whoever gets them, they'll just take them home like this, and they'll enjoy them. Let's see what goes with what. That's not it. Must be this one. So these, leave on the, all right. All these we're going to water bath, these we're going to water bath can, these we're going to set on the counter and let them gel. And I'll come back and show you how to. Okay, now we've got a shallow pan here, and we're going to need some water in a pitcher. If you just fill a pitcher up with water. Okay, so what we're going to do is put right now what we're doing is when we want to seal our jars. So we're putting our jars into a water bath. Now listen, this is not a water bath canner because we don't have one here at the moment. So what this is just a pot that will fit on the stove. And so what we've done is we're just using this pot as a water bath canner. Now I brought a trivet from home. If you set these jars straight in a pot of water, they will break. The bottom of them will break, and all the work that you've done is for nothing because they're going to crack and all that goodness is going to go all into your water. That's not going to be any good. So what you've got to do is make sure it's got a trivet in the bottom. Some websites even say you can, let me pour this in there. Some websites even say that you can use like a wadded up towel or something like that in the bottom, but it's got to not touch the bottom. Okay, so what we had here, we didn't have the water bath canner, so we're using the pot that we had. It's got a trivet in the bottom. Okay, so we brought the water to a boil, and then we put in our jars. Okay, now listen, this is a very shallow, this is not a water bath canner, it's very shallow, but you've got to have enough water in there so that your jars are covered by at least an inch of water. So that's what we did just now. I didn't fill it all the way up because once you put your jars in there, it's going to displace the water and the water is going to come up. So I didn't want to overflow my pan. I didn't know how much because I've never put anything in this particular shallow pot like that. So I went ahead and filled this about half full of water, and then I put my jars in there, and I could see that there wasn't an inch of water covering, so I had her go get me some more water. Now I covered them up. Okay, but it's not boiling anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this come to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, we're going to set our watch or timer or whatever for 10 minutes. And we're going to take the lid off, and we're going to let those jars process for 10 minutes. And then we'll come back and we'll take them out. So let's go back and take out our pepper jelly. Guys, this has processed. So it came to a boil, and it had an inch of water over it. So we put the timer on 10 minutes, and now we're back to take them out. So when you take them out, you need to put them in a draft-free place. In other words, they don't need to be under the air conditioning vent because they don't want to cool too fast because that will hurt the... Oh, did you hear that pop? Right on the cue. I'm so proud of you for our viewing audience. All right, so we're just going to wait and listen for those pops. Take them out. You can't put them, you don't need to put them right on the counter. You need to put them, and really you don't need to put them right by the stove. Now I put them by the stove here so you guys can see them, but this needs to be over somewhere else. So we'll do that. and then let them sit. All right, now, so what you're gonna do is set these out, wait, and listen for the wonderful pops. And you would need to let these sit for 24 hours, just like this, without moving them. And then after 24 hours, what they say is you are to take off the ring. Because if you don't take off the ring, then sometimes if they were to unseal for some reason, you wouldn't even know it, and you might give somebody something that was messed up. So remember, this needs to be in another part of the kitchen, not right on the cabinet, but on, another one, but on the but on a towel, and that will not absorb the moisture that comes off of them, and also keep them from hurting your countertop. Great, enjoy.